Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng and here are the top stories for tonight. Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro is set to appear in court in the United States as Trump warns more military action, not just against Venezuela. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is set to appear in court in the United States today after his capture by American forces over the weekend. And from the White House, a warning. U.S. President Trump says more military action is possible if Venezuela's government does not cooperate. He wants the country to open its oil industry and crack down on drug trafficking.
We didn't need it. We were prepared to do a second strike if we needed it. We're totally prepared.
But that's off
we're
the
still
table.
prepared.
That's off the table now.
No, it's not. If they don't behave, we will do a second strike.
The U.S. accuses Maduro, who faces drug trafficking and weapons charges, of running a narco-terrorist regime, a claim he denies. The 63-year-old is being transferred from a New York detention center and is set to appear in court.
Meanwhile, Maduro's government remains in Caracas, but acting President Delcy Rodriguez is striking a softer tone than she previously had, calling for cooperation with the U.S.
Rodriguez said Venezuela aspires to live without external threats and wants to prioritize balanced, respectful relations with Washington. Addressing Trump directly, she added that the people of Venezuela and Latin America deserve peace and dialogue, not war. Her remarks mark a shift from Caracas' initial response after Maduro's capture, when Rodriguez condemned the action and said Venezuela will never again be a colony of any empire. After Maduro's capture, Trump said the U.S. would take temporary control of Venezuela during the transition and get its oil industry running. He added that America is in charge of the country.
Following the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in a weekend military raid, U.S. President Donald Trump is now issuing stark warnings to other countries. He told Mexico to get its act together and threatened possible military action in Colombia.
Now, we have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor. And that's Venezuela. It's very sick. Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long.
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and
it sounds good to me. Yeah. You know why? Because they kill a lot of people. Yeah.
U.S. President Donald Trump's warnings about striking other countries come as criticism grows over the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Russia, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, Uruguay and Spain have condemned the U.S. action, calling it a dangerous precedent for peace and regional security. China also pushed back. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said no country should act as the world's police or judge, and that all nations' sovereignty and security must be fully protected. European states, meanwhile, have largely called for international law to be respected without specifically calling out Washington. The United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on Monday following the U.S. action on Venezuela.
I mean, the very reason we have law is to have an alternative to lawlessness and violence, for people taking matters into their own hands, using physical force to get their way. We have a neutral set of principles. We don't allow people to beat each other up to get what they want. President Trump ordered a major case of military force in which people have died. There's been destruction. There is great fear without any basis, justification in the law. Think about it. The U.S. has been trying since 1945 to support peace in the world through the United Nations. That's why the UN exists. But this is a slap in the face of those rules, saying that somehow President Trump gets to decide what is the right to use military force. And that is going to cause great dissension in the world. It won't help in the short run to reinstate U.S. leadership and support for international law. It's going to cause more mistrust. It's going to take many years before the U.S. can regain its sense of, or its respect as a leading rule of law and democracy.
More news coming up after the break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back. Oil prices slipped on Monday as markets reacted to the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by U.S. forces. Brent crude is down 0.8% to just above $60 a barrel. U.S. crude is also lower, down 0.9% to nearly $57 a barrel. Traders are weighing the risk of supply disruption against a market that is already well supplied. Most analysts say the developments in Venezuela are unlikely to cause a major jump in oil prices. Venezuela produces just about 1% of the world's oil. Even if politics stabilize, getting production back up would take years, not months. President Donald Trump has said the U.S. wants to tap Venezuela's vast oil reserves, calling for American companies to invest and help repair the country's damaged oil industry. But experts warn that rebuilding would cost billions of dollars and could take up to a decade to make a real difference. Oil prices were also pressured after OPEC Plus decided to keep output levels unchanged for the first quarter of 2026. Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is urging President Donald Trump to stop threatening to take over Greenland. She says the United States has no right to annex any part of the Danish kingdom, which includes Denmark, Greenland and the Faroe Islands. Her comments come after Trump renewed his push to control the autonomous territory, saying it is necessary for U.S. defense.
Frederiksen said Denmark is a NATO ally and that Greenland, as part of the kingdom, is covered by the alliance's security guarantee. Greenland, home to around 57,000 people, has had extensive self-government since 1979, though defense and foreign policy remain under Danish control. He argued that bringing Greenland under U.S. control would advance American security interests.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you that.
The Trump administration's recent appointment of a special envoy to Greenland has also sparked concern in Denmark, which has reiterated that Greenland's status is not up for negotiation.
To Greenland.
U.S. President Donald Trump has renewed his warning that Washington could raise tariffs on India if New Delhi does not cut back its purchases of Russian oil. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said India's trade ties with Russia remain a point of tension. He added that higher tariffs could be imposed very quickly if U.S. demands are not met.
Last year, the U.S. doubled tariffs on Indian goods to 50%, citing India's heavy buying of discounted Russian crude. Despite the higher duties, Indian exports to the U.S. rose sharply in November, strengthening New Delhi's position in ongoing trade talks. Reuters reported that New Delhi has asked refiners for weekly disclosures of Russian and U.S. oil purchases, with expectations that Russian imports could fall below 1 million barrels per day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with Trump several times since the tariff increases, but talks have so far failed to produce a breakthrough. The warning comes as Washington continues to press partners to reduce energy ties with Moscow following Russia's war with Ukraine.
Donald Trump has said that a U.S. investigation has found no evidence that Ukraine targeted Russian President Vladimir Putin's residence in Russia's northwestern Novgorod region. He says there was an incident in the area, but U.S. officials concluded that Putin's residence itself was not attacked.
The remarks follow Russian claims last week that Kyiv launched a drone strike at the site, with Moscow releasing a footage of a downed drone. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky swiftly denied the allegation. The claim comes as Russia and Ukraine work toward a ceasefire to end the nearly 4-year war. Zelensky has just traveled to Florida for talks with Trump on the U.S. administration's still evolving 20-point peace plan. European leaders are also set to meet in France on Tuesday for further discussions on the US-backed proposal, which Zelensky says is 90% ready.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung have reaffirmed bilateral ties at their second meeting in just 2 months. At their summit in Beijing, Xi says the two countries share common interests and should ramp up communication as neighbors. The meeting marks Lee's first visit to China since taking office in June 2025 and makes him the first head of state to visit China in the new year. Earlier today, China and South Korea signed 14 memorandums of understanding and agreed to launch a ministerial-level commerce dialogue channel. Beyond expanding economic cooperation, Lee is also seeking to leverage China's influence over North Korea as part of his efforts to improve ties with Pyongyang. The two leaders last met in November on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Gyeongju, a meeting Seoul described as a reset of strained relations. This latest summit comes just a day after nuclear-armed North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. China says a ceasefire agreement between Cambodia and Thailand is being gradually implemented following weeks of the worst border fighting in years between the two Southeast Asian countries. Speaking at a briefing in Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian says both sides were taking steps to put the agreement into effect.
China urged Cambodia and Thailand to ensure the ceasefire becomes comprehensive and lasting as tensions ease along their disputed border. Lin also confirmed that Thailand has returned 18 Cambodian soldiers, describing the move as part of the implementation process. The latest ceasefire was agreed in December, bringing an end to weeks of clashes that displaced hundreds of thousands of people. China, which has sought to play a constructive diplomatic role in the dispute, said it hopes both countries will continue dialogue to prevent a renewal of hostilities.
Yemen's Saudi-backed government is accusing southern separatists of cutting off the port city of Aden. Officials say they are prepared to take what they call all necessary measures. The comments underscore continuing tensions, despite recent talk of dialogue that had raised hopes for a negotiated solution.
The government says the Southern Transitional Council, or STC, which it claims is backed by the UAE, has restricted civilian movement into Aden and carried out a wave of arrests. The STC denies the claims, saying the city remains stable. Aden is a key port and shipping hub. The STC took control earlier this month, along with other strategic areas. Government forces say they have since retaken several military positions in eastern Hadramaut province. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry has called for Yemen's southern factions to attend a dialogue in Riyadh, a proposal the STC says it welcomes.
That concludes AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.